इत
Alright. Innal hamdalillahi wa kafah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihil Mustafa wa ala ibadi alladhina irtada wa man bihudahum ihtada wa bi athari ahli al-madinati iqtafa wa ba'd. Fassalamu Allahi ala al-qawm. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum wa marhaban. Juan Ying Laitse. Bienvenidos a todos. Bakhair Ragle Khushamadid. And as always, people, swagatam. Whoa, almost did not happen today. Just un momento. Let me just first and foremost just bring up the chat. Just do a quick sound check. Make sure it's all going through fine. One moment. Right, for some reason today I can't seem to see the Facebook people's chats. Can I not? Is it not coming through? Un momento. Right, so hopefully it'll come through in the mini feed here. Right, so people, what is going on? Alright. You're doing it. Nisar Ahmed, much love. Shukran for the super chat. Should you call yourself Abu Layth? I wasn't feeling ever so great today, but I guess the show must go on. It must go on. So, people, what is going down? What are some of the things that we'll take a look at today? Usman, Mufti Saab, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. Much love. So, look at this straight away. Questions coming right in. Wow. Ahmadi check. Username hatred for none. I don't know what that means. Masala segment first. ¿Qué es eso? You're doing it, Stefan. You're doing it. Much love, people. Much love. Let's begin whilst you guys are clicking like, clicking share. You're spreading the love and the fitan and the fasad. Let's put up a poem that I came across. A classic. It's more open kind of poetry read by Nana Patekar Sahab. Wah. From his clip where he's...
इतने दिनों के बाद जो देखा तुम्हें तो यूं
वाह
जैसे रेगिस्तान की जलती सुलगती रेत पर एक दिन अचानक इस तरह बारिश हो के जलती सुलगती रेत को ठंडक मिले। इतने दिनों के बाद जो देखा तुम्हें तो यूं लगा जैसे अंधेरी रात की सब काली दीवारें गिरे और रोशनी का एक दरिया हर तरफ बहने लगे। इतने दिनों के बाद जो देखा तुम्हें तो यूं लगा कि एक बेजान तर में आत्मा फिर लौट के आ जाए। वो जो खो चुका था जिंदगी फिर जिंदगी पा जाए। वो जो मर चुका था जी उठे और फिर कहे कैसे बताओ मैं तुम्हें मेरे लिए तुम कौन हो?
वाह कैसे बताऊं मैं तुम्हें तुम मेरे लिए कौन हो? This actually goes on to become a very long poem read out by Nana Patekar. One of the days I'll get it for you guys and play it, but it is quite long. It's epic, absolutely epic. So people, what is going down? Let me just check here. What's this? Oh, that's some other news as well. We've got a bunch of things going on around the world, as we can see. Allahu Akbar. My private jet coming a bit early today. What's going on? What is going on, people? Let me just check. What are the Facebook comments saying? Poetry in motion. Allah. Homer saying, here's some poetry. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Abe ya. Mahadha. So, right. Alright, so what are we going to be taking a look at tonight? So amongst the topics, well, Khadim Hussain Saab from the Beloveds has passed on to the next world, so we'll talk a bit about that. And there is a discussion around that are we allowed to are we allowed to criticize? Are we allowed to criticize the dead? Or are they now protected from our criticism? Namely, Khadim Hussain Sahab, Exhibit A. So we'll take a look at that discussion. And people, alright, what we cannot forget about will be the whole un momento. We've got, right, I'm just trying to bring this up. This has to be a point of discussion. Muhammad Hijab, alright, who has had quite a bit of drama going on Twitter, on Muslim Twitter, about following his podcast with a trans hijabi. Alright. Well, I guess drama is what he wanted, and drama is what he got. So we got to talk a bit about that. The backlash, from his, you see, people, whenever one is stabbed in the back, it's often from his own near and dear. Allah. As the poet had also said, that aag ghar ke charag se aag lag gayi, that it's the flame from within the house that burns the house down, people, and this is unquestionably what has happened here as well. Muhammad Hijab had his own near and dear, Danny Boy, and also Gangu Teli turned on him, backstabbing poor old Muhammad Hijab for having that interview. So that's something we've got to discuss. So first of all, a couple of you sending some super chats. Much love. You're doing it. Zeba, you're doing it. Much love as always to all of you. Optimus, alright, you do it. Danielle, alright, much love. You're doing it. The Duke, likewise. And Majid Wajid. Rhyming names, people. Right, so somebody's saying, right, Mufti criticizes dead people all the time. Well, we've got to discuss that, isn't it? Is he muted? Am I muted? Is this not... Whoa, wait there, I needed to... let me just check. Scalding tears sent through a... Right, let me just check here. No, I'm sure you guys can hear me. I can see the audio equalizer working fine, but if there's any issues, quickly tell me. You can make a quick audio sound check. Let me know. Yep, it seems to be right. Yep, it seems to be working fine on what I can see from the graphics. Right, so Hassan Yunus, Mufti, can you find me an economic graduate scheme, please? What on earth is one of them? What on earth is an economic graduate scheme? Here, cheers whilst you find out. You're doing it, people, with the super chats. Much love. Mufti, can I design a logo for a church? You see, now what he ought to say is, Mufti, here's a logo I've designed for you. Ah, there, look at these people. They come running asking for questions. Do they ever think of, like, apart from just getting, do they ever think of giving as well? Church. What about thinking, look, here's Mufti doing his Monday nights with Mufti. Why don't I design a logo for Mufti? And then ask him. But who's going to teach these people adab? This is why we are where we are, people. Soran Osman, Mufti Abu Layth, Allah bless you and your family. I love you, brother. I love you too. Barakallahu feek. May Allah forever keep you smiling. Shukran for your kind words. Shamaz Leela, Mufti, I've been trying to get a hold of you on Instagram from my business account. Rather. I was hoping to send you some gear. The account is at Urban Islamic Apparel. Rather. One must use the correct terms. Apparel. Please take a look in your messages when you're free. I'll take a look. But look, if you want to send me some garms, if it must be muscle wear. All right. So not just a flimsy t-shirt. It's got to be a muscle t-shirt, people. All right. So if it's not, then this one nice, my friend. You know. So that's how it must be. Okay. So I've given you now the details, so you can get. If you want to design it, you can put on the. Must be a muscle top. That's, I assume it's a top anyway, so yeah. Right. Alright, people. Did I miss any other super chats? Let me just check. Ehsanullah Kushkaki, you're doing it, Kushkaki. Can you speak on the term Musawwir and what is the understanding of Islam on people who draw living creatures, beings? Also, you got a meme waiting in your Insta. Alright, I will take a look at that meme. I will look out for it. Shukran, I appreciate the memes. Scalding Tea, rather. Scalding Tea has said, super chatted, Sophia was a war captive, so she doesn't get iddah? Well, she does get iddah. Watch my detailed elaborate response on Sophia. You don't need to believe some of the nonsense that people have been saying. I don't believe it is accurate. Okay, so yes, I hope that answers. Am I? You know, it's a. I'm just trying to see if I'm. Let me just check, people. Just trying to check if I am logged in. For some reason, the right, it seems to be showing. Un momento, I'm just trying to check why is it that the stream, why is it that the Facebook comments ain't coming through? And I think I've figured it out. Can, you could do it. You could do it. Alright, look at this. Now they're coming through here. Is he live right now? Look at all these Quran. What are these comments? Whoa. Jonathan. See, they all seem to be showing here now. If I go back, let me check. Can I find them here? Where is... Let me just add... Nope. What about here? Nope. What about adding in? Where's the chat box? Right, I'm just gonna... Right, sorry about that. Let's get back to it. I'll have to fidget with it. Afterwards, it's doing my head in. Right, so... People, what is going down? Right, what are some of the questions you guys have got? Mufti, can you find... That's the same question. Khadim Hussein Saab. Okay, let's go straight to... okay, another super chat. Let's answer this first. Mufti, how would you describe your creed? I would describe it as Aventus. That's my go-to creed, people. Creed Aventus. Other than that, I would also describe it as Grey Vetiver. Oof, that as well. But not as good as Aventus, but it's alright. You're doing it, people. You're doing it. Is wudu necessary to read the Quran? I believe that wudu is it is an emphasized sunnah to read the Quran. That is also the position that Qadi Iyad takes in his i'lam, and yeah, I pretty much go with that. That it is an emphasized sunnah. It should be done. Unless in some circumstances a person is rushed, or then it's not. Put it like this, if you touch the Quran without wudu, I don't believe you're sinful. I believe that it is the proper etiquette of the Quran, however, to have wudu. There are no clear, conclusive, established evidences that that it is mandatory to have wudu to read the Quran. People use the verse of the Quran, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون, that none touch it except those who have been purified. Mutahharun. Now here, firstly, most people will accept that this verse of the Quran is not even speaking about human beings. So most people say that's about the angelic realm. It's not even about humans. So okay, so that's firstly, we've that this verse is not even speaking about Muslims. And even if we do take, let's go with that, it is speaking about people. Mutahharun, there's nothing to clearly state that that means a state of wudu. So, I mean, one can, you can infer from that those who have been purified. That's what the actual word means. That it's referring to a physical purification, but I would feel that that actually is killing off the meaning, because the actual meaning seems to be speaking about those who have been purified by God. So it has a much greater, more transcendental meaning. The other thing to take into consideration is the Quran was not a Quran per se, like the way we have it today, as a mushaf. It was not like that in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So people weren't actually touching the Quran like that. They never had it as a book form. Now they did write out individual kind of pieces of the Quran, ayat. They wrote them on certain parchments and different things, and that is true. But another piece of evidence people may use is they may try to argue that, oh, the story of Umar, that when Umar approaches when Umar approaches his sister and he wants to read, what have you got? And she says, well, you're not in a state of purity. So he says, okay, fine. And he kind of throws water over himself and then he's ready. So this is an evidence used by people. Now, first of all, this whole story, fair enough, the story may have, its foundations may be established, but the details are unlikely to be established. This is something that happened very early in Islam. The other thing is that this story is not talking about wudu, it's talking about ghusl. The third thing is that, this is the most important thing, that the verses of the Quran that told you that you need to do wudu, or you need to do ghusl, hadn't even been revealed in Makkah at that stage. So this is not, so it doesn't even make any sense using that as evidence, because at that time, it wasn't something that had even been revealed. So the verses of the Quran to do with, if one of you has come from, if one of you has come from having relieved him or herself, then they should do wudu, or they should purify themselves, or the verses that qumtum ila salah faghsilu, then if you stand to pray, then wash your faces, and so on and so forth. These verses are revealed in Medina much later. So yeah, so there is nothing clear cut about this discussion. Muslims, for the most part, have taken it on board that it is mandatory. Their evidences are not conclusive at all, but they've just gone with it. And out of respect, I think many scholars have just, either many have agreed, and those who have disagreed haven't just challenged it because they felt, just out of respect. But if you read the discussions by Ibn Hazm as well, who does challenge it, you will find that he demonstrates there's nothing authentic to say that is necessary. Okay, I hope that's enough. Can shaitan be the id of Freud psychoanalysis? Stefan, you're doing it with the super chat. Yes, of course. There's there's no doubt about that. Right, so alright, Mufti, do dua for me, please. I've got a acting audition today. You're doing it. Don't worry. Yassar Allahu lak. Yassar Allah. Alright, so Musawwir question. Right, Ihsanullah. Sorry, I've got a detailed video on things about taking pictures and videos and images. So I do have a detailed explanation of that. Please do check that out. But shortly, or briefly explaining it to you that yes, of course it's permissible, and there is no problem with that. Of course, Musawwir did not mean a cameraman, what Musawwir in Arabic today means, a cameraman. Obviously, they didn't have cameras back then. So this is just a very modern, imposition on the Arabic language. Of course, that's not what the Prophet meant. He was speaking about people who create idols for worship, not even idols generally. So how can it be that Allah curses people who have idols? Is not Sulaiman alayhi salam in the Quran mentioned as tamathil, that he had great statues made for him. Is that not a prophet of God? Does it make sense that that prophet does it and it's blessed to that extent that God mentions it in the Quran, and other people do it and they're being casted into hell? What kind of logic is that? So, if you check the Quran, وَقُدُورٌ رَاسِيَاتٍ, and Allah mentions the things that Sulaiman alayhi salam had. So, what the Prophet is speaking about is idols that were pagan gods, people that were creating these pagan god figures to be worshipped or being cursed. So that's what it is, because of what it was doing, the superstition at the back of it. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And yes, each prophet has a different sharia, but those sharia are to do with social issues. They're not, you see, it's not to do with it's not conceptual. Otherwise, it's not abstract. Otherwise, it would be absurd, you see. So if we are to believe that statues are somehow not only damned, but if you create a statue, you're going to hell. It's not even enough that you're going to hell. You're forever cursed. And then on the same token, we recite verses of the Quran where Sulaiman alayhi salam not only has statues created for him, but it's that praiseworthy that it takes up a piece of the Quran. It's mentioned. So this is this one contradiction, my friend. So obviously somebody is misunderstanding something somewhere. Right, let's move on, people. Move on. Right, who is... Right, so... Alright, somebody said about a troll. Well, people... Niels Muse has asked, can I have a fifth wife? Speaking of nikahs, people, he's reminded me that this is the actress or the star from Bollywood, Sana Khan, has married this mufti. This was in the news. So this had triggered an entire discussion on social media, especially in India. People were they couldn't understand how this Mufti Saab had struck gold by marrying. So when people ask that Mufti, why did you become a Mufti? Or they ask all these Muftis, well, you now know your answer, you see. But instead of all the Muftis of the world, it's just... It's doing it. That's a Mufti course that's paid off pretty well, I would say. The return on investment, ROI, is pretty fascinating. But coming back to Neil, something of his question's gone now. Can he take a fifth wife? Well, you see, to me, in my understanding, there is no restriction on the number of nikahs a person can do. There is the verse of the Quran, thulatha wa ruba', mathna wa thulatha wa ruba', is not exclusive, and that is the view of several scholars, including Shawkani and Nawab Sadiq Hassan Khan and several others, that it's just enumerating examples. It's saying whatever you can manage. So if a person wants to, I'm not saying you need to. Damn, he has Mufti, you're too much. I'm not too much, this is not too much, no. I'm being quite realistic. It's not, according to, in my understanding, Pleasure Mar, ha 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 ha. Abu Layth, you are upon the manhaj of the Salaf. Hell yeah, the Salaf were like that. The Salaf had no restrictions in these things. So what else is going on, people? What is going on? Let me just bring this up. Mufti, your thoughts on Sheikh Zuhair? Sheikh Zuhair. Who's Sheikh Zuhair? Oh, do you mean Sheikh Zuhair from Egypt? Or is this a different Sheikh Zuhair? Mughal emperors had hundreds of wives. Yes, they did. They did. Many. So did the caliph. So did all these kind of people. Rather. We're born in the wrong time. Also, but then imagine you are born then and you're just one of the peasants. You're like, damn, I got done over. So, right, Mufti, is it compulsory to remake wudu when cracking up in salah? No, not at all. If a person laughs during salah, you know what I would say? I would say that the laughter does not invalidate the prayer, but hysterical laughter would. So if a person just laughed but kind of contained him or herself, that would be fine. But if a person kind of went into a hysterical fit like that, then they would have to remake they would have to, that salah is broken, they would have to begin the salah again. As to it breaking the wudu, that's absurd. Unless you laughed that loud that whilst hot air is coming out this side, something come out the other end too. This one, not nice. This one, big problem. Okay, so that would be like it's not a laughing matter, people. It's not a laughing matter. But if you did, but this is a Hanafi thing. The Hanafis have this, that if a person laughs in salah, their wudu breaks. यार ये काहे का wudu है यार? इतना कमजोर wudu. This خلق ضعيفا. This is amongst the weakest of wudus I've seen. It's a Hanafi thing based on an unreliable narration. So basically they have some narration which is da'if, right? And the narration is that, what is it? Abdullah ibn Maktoum, the blind companion, is he's walking through a masjid or is walking somewhere. I think it must be, he's walking somewhere where some companions are allegedly praying. Obviously, the details don't matter so much. Why? Because this whole story isn't true anyway. But let's enlighten some of us. So some companions are praying, and the blind companion walks in front of them, ahead of them, and he's walking into a ditch. Like there's a ditch ahead of him, and he obviously can't see it because he's blind, and he's walking and he falls into the ditch. So as he falls into the ditch, the companions burst out laughing. So they are then reprimanded, and either in this non-established hadith, the Prophet allegedly, or one of the companions allegedly, tells them off and says that you need to repeat your wudu. Go and repeat your wudu and pray again. So that's what they've based this ruling on, and it's nonsensical. You understand? So it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so I mean, is there a ditch in the mosque? I don't think the details are that. I mean, you're right. Even that part's nonsensical, but the whole thing is made up, so we've got nothing to worry about. So that's just a Hanafi thing. The other madhabs don't recognize it because obviously it's da'if. Sultan, Mufti, you know what, Mufti, can you get me a PS5? Well, people, I've taken the decision. Soon come. All right, I'm going to try and shoot my shot at gaming, people. I'm going to try and see if I can learn how to game. So soon. Watch out. You know this one, watch out. So I'll be right. Nayas Muse. Somebody's writing in some language. I don't know what language that is. I gotta tell my pilot to calm down. Salam Mufti Saab, lots of love from Germany, no more. Gori Saab, speaking of that, Azarati, you're doing it. Much love. Speaking of that, let's, you can see right here, Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab has passed away this week gone, and it's a news that has shaken certain people, perhaps delighted others. Nevertheless, what do we have to say about it? Now, what I would say is that, you see, when a person passes away, fine, we have an understanding that they have now died. So, may Allah forgive them for all the things that they've done wrong whilst they were alive. However, you see, many people have taken to kind of celebrating him as a kind of like a quasi-martyr, even though he died a natural death, or probably most likely coronavirus. I'm pretty sure he must have died from coronavirus, but nevertheless, whatever he died from, it was seen as a natural cause, but he's being celebrated as a martyr. And thousands upon thousands flocked to his funeral, and I'll come to that point as well in a moment. You see, we have to remember something. Now, what I'm about to say, this is not for people who are, in love with, or they have such immense love for Khadim Hussain. Look, this is not aimed at you. These people have a misplaced sense of love. Okay. They are misinformed or misguided. I think the majority of them are just misinformed. They are your regular people who don't really have an in-depth understanding of what's going on in certain parts of the world, or what the nature of the politics, the sectarianism. They just see things superficially. They have been taught that Khadim Hussain, Rizvi Sahib, was a person who loved the Prophet. And because he had this excessive love for the Prophet, he was somebody willing to die for the Prophet. Now, I don't deny that. Obviously, I don't know him personally, neither did these people know him personally. Now, this passion alone, a person saying, I have love for Islam to the extent that I will die for Islam, at the face of it, may seem like an admirable slogan, and a noteworthy, a praiseworthy claim that, wow, this person has immense love. Somebody messaged me telling me that, look, Mufti, you once said you would defend the honor of the Prophet, till your dying death. This is why I saw you as admirable. And this is what Khadim Hussain was. Somebody prepared to defend the honor of the Prophet. Now, you see, it comes down to what a person means. ISIS are people who claim to love the Prophet. ISIS have killed thousands of people in the name of Allah and His Prophet, because they can't take that these people have blasphemed against this deen and thereby become apostates. That why are they not upon the manhaj? It hurts them that much that they have killed these people, put them to death. ISIS, those, the thousands of people that flocked to join ISIS from around the world, they gave up everything. They gave up their families. They gave up their luxuries. Many of them were affluent people living around the world, qualified, educated. Doctors went there. Accountants, lawyers, teachers, all these people that were educated around the world, people who were very wealthy. Osama bin Laden he predates ISIS, but somebody who was incredibly wealthy, gave up his wealth and went to live in a cave out of his love for Islam, his love for Allah, the Messenger, and the Quran. And he couldn't stand that the kuffar were disrespecting the Holy Land, Saudi Arabia, because it was the land of Islam, it was the land of Allah, and it was the land of His Messenger, who is buried there today. You see, it doesn't make these people heroes. These people who go and blow themselves up because they love Allah and His Messenger and His Sharia to that extent, it does not. These people have no place in Islam. I'm not saying they're not Muslim, but they truly have no place in Islam. They do cling to Islam with a twisted, a totally a Neanderthal interpretation of what the deen is truly saying. They're not admirable. They're not praiseworthy. The fact that they love the Prophet doesn't mean anything. See, loving the Prophet by butchering people does not make you a hero. If you truly love the Prophet, you would be compassionate. Khadim Hussein Rizvi Saab was no different. He, by the way, was unknown to the world. He was unknown in Pakistan up until just a couple of years ago. You had somebody by the name of Mumtaz Qadri, a convicted terrorist within Pakistan, who, out of his ignorance, thought that somebody was insulting the Prophet. The governor of Punjab was insulting the Prophet, who clearly was not insulting the Prophet. He was questioning the blasphemy laws in Pakistan. So this person, obviously uneducated, he's a security guard, he thinks that, that somebody tells him that's disrespecting the Prophet. He listens to one of these muftis, I've forgotten his name now, but I've mentioned it in my video. I can't remember which mufti it was, but it was some mufti in Pakistan who was giving a talk, and Mumtaz Qadri is present in that talk. And he's saying that, I don't know whether it's Hanif Qureshi or somebody, but anyway, it may not be that person. Don't, hold me to that name. But he's giving some talk saying that to repeal the blasphemy laws in Pakistan is a blasphemy. And it is a blasphemy, it is an insult to Allah and His Messenger. So that person is saying this in his talk very passionately. And he says, if you repeal these laws, then I call upon people to take up the law in their own hand and to execute. Now what happens is, Mumtaz Qadri, who is a commoner, he doesn't understand Islam. He thinks, well, that is what Allah and His Messenger want from me. So he goes and he's entrusted as the personal security guard for the governor. So in broad daylight, he executes this man, shoots him dead, I think 27, 28 times to the face and to the body with his Kalashnikov. He just shoots him dead in broad daylight. He says, I did this because it was defending the honor of the Prophet. Now, he's arrested under terrorism. Obviously, he's assassinated the governor of a state because the governor discussed some political issues on blasphemy laws. Now, when he's arrested, he mentions this lecture as well that he's listened to. That Mufti is also arrested. That Mufti immediately says not only, and this is on, you can find it, he says not only is it haram to do that, he completely, disowns this person, Mumtaz Qadri, says I've got nothing to do with him, and what he did was haram. He says that nobody has the right to execute someone. So what happened? That Mufti is let scot-free. He goes, but this Mumtaz Qadri is then executed by the state. Now, I'm not in support of capital punishments, and I've got a video on that, but nevertheless, he's executed. Now, when he's executed, this is the rise of Khadim Hussein. Khadim Hussein, on the back of Mumtaz Qadri, rises. He does all these street rallies and lectures, and this is where he emerges. Prior to that, nobody has really heard of him. Now, he then goes around saying we should execute people who blaspheme. He is a jihadist version, and basically an ISIS version from the Brelvis. So Brelvis prior to that were not really known in Pakistan for being militants. They were seen as a kind of like a peace-loving Sufi crowd. So the Salafis, the Wahhabis in India, Pakistan were seen as militants. Some of them, they had like jihadist organizations like Lashkar Taiba. The Deobandis, although they are Sufic as well, but were seen as militant in Pakistan. They had many of the Taliban were jihadi, were Deobandi. All these Harkatul Jihad al-Islami, Jaish-e-Muhammad, all these jihadi organizations in Pakistan and that emerged and were operating. Tahrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan that have blown up schools and masjids, and all these Sipah Sahaba that were killing Shia. All of these were Deobandi. But never did you have a Brelvi militant organization that went around trying to kill people. Now it rises with people like Khadim Hussein Rizvi Saab, who says that we need to take up arms and we need to execute people if they dishonor the Prophet. Now, keeping in mind that none of these people have actually ever dishonored the Prophet. The governor that was killed, clearly on YouTube, you can watch his video, says that I would never dare to dishonor the Prophet. I'm discussing a law. Should this blasphemy law, which by the way was enacted by the British, it was not, it was actually part of the British Raj, that law was instated. He says that what we're speaking, and then later reenacted under, I think, Zia or something. But the point is, he says that should these laws be there today, that's nothing to do with insulting the Prophet, keeping in mind that Pakistan is a Hanafi state, that religiously it abides by Hanafi fiqh. Hanafi fiqh does not allow people to execute blasphemers. So here they say, oh, but that's okay, we're going to take from the other madhabs, the Maliki madhab and the Shafi'i madhab. We're going to go by them. Otherwise, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, this is an inaccurate law. You can't do that. Especially if the person himself is clearly saying, I never intended any blasphemy, like this person. So Khadim Hussein Rizvi spread so much poison in Pakistan in the last couple of years. He completely empowered a Brelvi militia to people to take up arms. You saw after that there was the famous Junaid Jamshed, Deobandi-esque kind of celebrity preacher who was attacked in broad daylight. He was attacked and beaten up, and they would have probably killed him. Why? Because they said he's a gustakh, he's somebody who blasphemes. So Anybody that spreads this kind of poison and venom in society, if he says, look, I love the Prophet, look, that is an inaccurate claim. Because if you loved the Prophet, you would spread love and compassion. You wouldn't spread hatred. So I completely do not buy his claims. If he believes them, that's fine. Poison is poison. Even if, now people say that he said nice things, obviously, about the Prophet. I'm sure he did. But poison, even in honey, is still poison. You can't just, and here, now you've got here he is. Here he's speaking about humanitarian Abdul Sattar Idi. After his death, after Idi's death. Look, insulting him. So what he's saying is Abdul Sattar Idi, who has a national award and recognized at an international level for his humanitarian efforts, he's hating on him. Why? And he's saying that this is not a laughing matter. This is a serious matter, something to cry over. He says Abdul Sattar Idi, and he's insulting him, and he's saying that what did he? Because Abdul Sattar Idi, one of the things he did was he created these kind of orphanages, these kind of, I mean, they weren't just for orphans, but these care homes were for unwanted children. If people, so let's say a woman was pregnant and it was out of adultery or out of something, and in a society like Pakistan, which can be so backwards as well, that if people have these children, they may kill the lady. So what some women would do is they would dump their children, and sometimes they would kill them. They would just suffocate the child and throw it, and out of fear that they're going to be killed as well. So he created these centers where you could go and leave a child. If you wanted to abandon your child, then don't abandon the child in a river or in a forest. Abandon him here and we will take care of the child. And that is one of the greatest things this man had done in Pakistan. Seriously, such an act of compassion. And I tell you, these things are very real. My own uncle in Karachi, he found in this river, he was a police officer, he used to run a crime unit in Karachi, and he found in this river, wrapped in black bags, a beautiful baby, a baby boy that somebody had just dumped. And they'd wrapped the bag around they'd tied him up in this, he was just a baby, must have just been, a couple of days old. They'd wrapped something around, whilst they were wrapping him, it had kind of really pressed into his stomach. The child was severely ill, malnutrition, on the brink of death. Now, my uncle really tried to save the child, and he took him to all these hospitals, and he really paid and did all these things to, and the child lived for a very short time only. It was, I believe, with medical assistance, he lived for, I think, a couple of weeks. And my uncle said that if, I will adopt him. But the child couldn't live, unfortunately, without assistance, because they had completely ruined something with his stomach when they'd crushed. And these are the kind of tragedies. And what Abdul Sattar Idi had done was he had created these care homes, and he's insulting him here that you're encouraging zina. But by creating these care homes, you're saying, don't worry, have illegitimate children, we'll take care of them. I mean, what a perverted way at looking at such a humanitarian cause. And people hail this person as a hero, like our beloved Asrar hails him as a hero, and he says, people like so that's his right. So that was if I bring up here, Sheikh Asrar had made a a post, if I just bring that up here, you can see here Sheikh Asrar had made a post saying that, look, between us and you are the funerals. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal has said this allegedly to the to some of the Mu'tazila rulers, allegedly, right? He said this. Now, first of all, right, whether Imam Ahmad actually said that, I don't know. I mean, Allahu A'lam, maybe Imam Ahmad did say. The truth is, look, the circumstances around Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and his interaction with the state are unclear. Okay. What we do know is that Imam Ahmad was inquisitioned. He faced the Inquisition like hundreds of others. The Inquisition generally had a principle. It was like, nod your head and you can walk. If you don't, you will be executed. Very few people were getting executed, but those who resisted got executed. Now, this was to do with the creation of the Quran, and it wasn't even real. It was really more a political issue, but I have a video on that. Now, what's interesting is Imam Ahmad is detained. He first refuses to nod his head and say yes, he is detained. Now, unlike anybody else, he is then released. Now, that is incredibly suspect, because not that it's a problem, you see, because Islam allows you to nod your head and go with it, because you don't need to die. There's a verse of the Quran saying that, if you are forced to say something you disagree with, just say it. You don't need to die. Sure, you can take a high ground and fight for whatever you believe if you want, but you do have that dispensation. Now, Imam Ahmad is then released. There's a lot of questions asked that how is he released, because they would never release someone unless you comply. The Mu'tazila, I believe Jahid as well, and the other Mu'tazila, they they write that he complied. He kind of nodded his head and said, right, okay, sorry, just froze there for a moment. The Mu'tazila claimed that he nodded his head and he complied. Now, what we do know is he's sent home and he's kind of has restrictions on him. He's kind of put under house arrest, if you like. Not entirely house arrest, but he's not allowed to have a public post or things like this. So, okay, it's questionable. The Hanbalis use this event to turn him into a hero. And it's very interesting because, in the Inquisition, Imam Ahmad isn't really the person who takes it's the other people who are actually killed who take that very defiant stance. But in this race to orthodoxy, the Hanbalis really use this and really kind of push it as a kind of propaganda tool, as an advertising of their school. That look at our Imam, he did this, they give him this term, the father of Ahl Sunnah. I don't know where they get that term from, because how is Imam Ahmad the father of Ahl Sunnah? Rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, but he's definitely not, his belief is nothing like what the Ash'aris or the other mainstream Muslims believe. His belief was, I don't believe it was as anthropomorphic as the later Hanbalis, but it was definitely down that kind of way of thinking, because the Hanbalis are not just lying when they are attributing it to him. I mean, that would be ridiculous to say all the Hanbalis are lying, but they may be exaggerating. Okay, I get that part makes sense, but to say that all the Hanbalis have just lied, Imam Ahmad never believed this at all. So I find that very unlikely to be true. I feel that he was inclined towards anthropomorphic beliefs, but he may not have expressed them the way they went on to express them. So, okay, anyway. Sheikh Asrar, before we digress, is saying that, look, this between us and you, this is the sign of being a hero, because so many people attend your funeral. Why is that the sign of being a hero? Why? That just means the masses or a certain number of the public hailed you as something supreme, which, fair enough, but people, common people, especially rural people, because this is in rural Pakistan, rural people are easily fed like certain kinds of beliefs. Now, this is an example of in our recent times, and I've quoted him before, Satya Sai Baba, who was deemed a kind of demigod almost in India. Now, he, and by the way, any people who wish to believe in miracles, actual supernatural miracles, I'm surprised when they question Satya Sai Baba, because he apparently had thousands of eyewitnesses to miracles he performed there and then. Satya Sai Baba, when he died in our recent times, at least 500,000 people attended his funeral. 500,000 people. At least some people claim that the figures were even more. Does that make him a hero? I mean, is he then, by that standard, if the funerals are simply how we know somebody was upon the truth, then Satya Sai Baba was definitely upon the truth. How many people do you know that almost between 500,000 to 1 million people attend their funerals? I mean, that's larger than most cities in the UK, besides London and Birmingham. But the rest of the cities in the UK are not 1 million people. So most of those cities, that's like them combined those cities, the entire people in that city attended his funeral, Satya Sai Baba. But it doesn't make him necessarily upon the truth just because so many people attended his funeral. So yeah, and I feel that this thing that you can't criticize people just because they died. Why? I ask you that, look, do we not criticize all these Brailwis will criticize they will criticize Ibn Taymiyyah. I've criticized Ibn Taymiyyah. They will criticize him. Is he not dead? Criticize Ibn Qayyim. They criticize all these other sects. Criticize the Shia of the past. They're still Muslim. They will criticize of all these Ahl Hadith scholars, the Deobandis. Do they not criticize Ashraf Ali Thanwi, criticize Rashid Ahmed Gangohi and Qasim Nanotwi, Anwar Shah Kashmiri, Mahmoud al-Hassan? They criticize all these and insult them and actually swear at them. Do they not do that? They do. In fact, they even write about it. It's even in their books. So how does that work? In fact, they even criticize within the Brailwi, because the Brailwis in the last decade or so have turned on each other, unfortunately. It's like you see this further. They criticize amazing recent scholars from Pakistan, people like Pir Karam Shah Sahab, who was an amazing, loved individual. And I had the fortune of attending one of his madrasas where I did my hifz in Islamabad. Now, yet, Brailwis have turned on him, insulting him, that he was a gustakh and that he was a blasphemer after his death. And they've called him all kinds of names, and even to the extent that some have called him a kafir. That, so how does this work? Is it only... Everybody's insulting everyone, and it's not about just insulting, it's about criticizing. So yeah, I mean, that makes zero sense. Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, I suppose I don't know whether they consider him a Muslim or not, but other people will still consider him a Muslim, even if they say he's not a Sunni, he's Shia, but so they consider him deviant. But do they not insult him publicly? So yeah, and I find this absurd to say, oh, you can't insult someone or you can't criticize someone just because they passed away. It's a kind of hypocrisy that yet they're doing it to everybody else. criticizing everybody else that has died. And they will say, yeah, well, we don't disagree. Well, we don't agree with those people. Well, we don't agree with him. This person was the epitome of poison in a society. And, the worst thing is, these people, by labeling their poison love for the Prophet, they insult our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because they say that this is what our Prophet wants. He wants us to execute people. And they say that this is the love of the Prophet. So it's this poison that they put a label on and say, and they put the Prophet's name on that poison and say that, this is, we spread violence, but we spread violence out of love for the Prophet. So it's so disappointing that how, yet the Messenger of Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, as a paragon of mercy and compassion, not as with the sword. You've not been sent to execute people. And the irony that their own madhab, the Hanafi madhab, does not allow this. And they claim to be blind muqallideen. None of these people claim to have a knowledge of being mujtahids. They claim that they're not even trained to give an opinion. and the worst opinion they give, you can execute someone. I don't know what people are on about. And I saw this post by, I know I've spoken in the past of Hassan Katani. I spoke of him a couple of weeks ago when I said that this is why scholars need to be indigenous, where he was teaching in English and, and kind of, whether it's unintentional, but this anti-blackness and racism and all this, he's kind of, he's coming out with it, but it may be that he unknowingly, or I don't know, whatever his excuse is. But I read a post and I said that his brother seems more learned, and I question that. I read a post by, I don't know, unless they've misunderstood him, but claiming that these are the words of Hamza Katani, saying, we've known about him for so long. Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab, he's an amazing scholar who knew the Quran inside out, and we knew about him, and he had great knowledge of tafsir and of all these things. What BS? No, whether Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab knew that or not, that's not the BS. The BS is what this person is saying. How long have you known him? This cannot even be true, because Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab didn't even arise on the scene except a couple of years ago, a few years ago. It's probably been, 4 years since he's arisen on the scene. Nobody knew of him before that. How have you known of him for all of these years? And where have you known anything about him? The man speaks in Urdu and Punjabi. Just clout chasing. They see somebody has died, so they think, this guy's got hundreds of thousands of followers. So chalo, maska hai boss, maska. Let's us just rub our nose as well and get a few brownie points. I've known him for so long. And how have you known this person? What nonsense. You wouldn't know anything about him. You've watched these recent clips. And in all honesty, what has Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab written in Arabic that you've ever read in Arabic? And I doubt it your Urdu and Punjabi is so good. Gas, man, pure gup. They chat it. This is the thing that annoys you, that just chatting it, pure, just pure gup. लंबी छोड़ रहे हैं. It's like, अच्छा, no, यार, कब से जानते हैं इसको यार. यार from the pind, अच्छा him, यार वो तो घराई है यार, घराई. Yo penku. This is the thing, yeah, anything for chasing clout. So let's move on, people. All right. Mufti, you sound jealous. No, I don't sound jealous. Look, there's many people with so much more clout. I don't criticize them for just having clout. Fair enough. But if your clout is earned on the back of saying murder people in broad daylight, in the name of Allah and His Messenger, that is bang out of order. I don't know how anybody can really tolerate that. It is nothing but a bloodthirsty approach to Islam. So, of course, anything like this rattles me, because it is saying to people that Islam is, that not only Islam, Allah and His Messenger are bloodthirsty. So, yeah. Beloved number 1 has much love for the super chat. All right. I'll come to that question in a moment. Super chat: Shiva equals Solomon, Brahma equals Abraham, Vishnu equals Noah. Thoughts? Nah, I don't buy that. I do feel that Ibrahim alayhi salam was from the Indus Valley. I do feel that his name, that he may have been a Brahmin, and I do feel that his name may have been named after Brahma. And that's what maybe, all this thinking and understanding, because Brahma is also kind of formless. He's the kind of one that doesn't really take to idols and things like this. So maybe that inspired some of his thinking, Ibrahim alayhi salam. But I don't feel he is Brahma. There's a distinction. And Sulaiman alayhi salam definitely is not Shiva. Sulaiman alayhi salam is not that old to be Shiva. And Vishnu is not Nuh alayhi salam, although some people have argued the myth of Manu being the human with the boat and the flood. See, many civilizations have this thing, whether it's of Adamu in the Sumerian culture, or Adam, or Manu, or these people, and the myth of the flood. I don't feel it was a myth. I feel it was a flood, and I'm more and more inclined in recent times to believing that it was the Younger Dryas. That's what was that great flooding that takes place. That is where this story kind of comes from, because it happens, over most of the globe. So yeah. Do Shia believe Ali is Zoroaster? Not that I'm aware of. Made-up stories from around the world tend to have similarities, since they've all come from the human brain. No, that doesn't make any sense. I'll tell you what, if you read a book called what's it called? From the Edge. It's on oral traditions and memory. It's a study. It's a very, it's an interesting read on studies done on oral traditions, stories that have been circulating, and now how we can substantiate them through other forms of evidence, like geological, using other techniques, whether it's been recent archaeological findings or computational methods to backtrack certain things, rising sea levels and things like this. They demonstrate that a lot of these stories, especially in Aboriginal cultures, when they speak of other lands and they all kind of have this myth, they seem to have a truth to them, but they have been kind of they've been turned into a story to pass on. So it's very interesting. I would definitely advise checking that out. And Graham Hancock has some amazing work on this to show how the stories around the world, it's very unlikely that they all just made them up, but it seems to be that maybe they were taking them from a common source, a kind of forgotten chapter in history. And I'm definitely inclined to that. The flood didn't actually happen. I believe that the flood is referring to the Younger Dryas period, when much of the globe was flooded. Yeah. So, no, they don't. Mufti, can we not criticize or even condemn someone like Muawiyah radiallahu anh, given his so-called reprehensible conduct? Reprehensible. I don't know if Muawiyah's conduct was reprehensible. I don't believe it was, but I believe it was political. But look, they were all human beings, and you can watch my video. I've got a detailed video called Can We Criticize the Companions? And I give two approaches in there, and I go into it in much detail. So that I give an approach where I say, fine, but if you do, then A, B, and C, and you shouldn't. Why? Because of A, B, and C. So I give two pathways. I think the flood was local. I used to think that as well. I used to go with the flood being local, but then the more I've in the last couple of years, as I've been looking more into things like what Graham Hancock has been saying and other similar, I've been going through some of his works. I've been listening to his lectures, other things surrounding that topic of discussion. I've become inclined to understanding that the flood was at the Younger Dryas. What is going, Mufti? Your view on transgenders? We're going to speak about transgender and the whole thing in just a moment. I am the drop that contains the ocean. Allah, Allah, Allah. Yeah. Because I really feel that, Graham Hancock is onto something. I'm not saying it has to be entirely as he's saying it, but I feel that he's onto it, and his journey has kind of modified along the way. So, his early journey where he was looking at Antarctica, and I think that didn't really make sense, doesn't make sense to me. And then he shifted away to the east. And then recently he's come to this understanding that the lost civilization was in America. And I am definitely inclined towards that. I feel that humans have been more advanced than we think they were. I think that human civilization, maybe about 20,000 years ago or 20 plus thousand years ago, were reasonably advanced. Not as advanced as today, but they were reasonably advanced. And that they would have been as advanced as maybe, I don't know, like maybe the medieval times, the late medieval times. So considering that the late medieval times was so advanced prior to, old antiquity. So yet, you see, when we look at the past, like things like the Sphinx, now this was mocked and laughed at as a theory that the Sphinx it was over 20,000 years old, because people look at the face of the Sphinx, but the face has been carved into much later. In recent last few thousand years, maybe 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, the face has been carved into. But prior to that, we know that it would have been, I believe it was the face of a lion. It was not the pharaoh's face. So, because if you look at the Sphinx, the face is disproportionate in size to the body. It's much smaller because it was carved into. Now, the actual body of the Sphinx had been argued to have been carved 20,000 years ago, because they saw certain damage on it that was damage done by floods. And the flooding only took place so, it was so historic. Now, when this was stated, the people who stated it were ridiculed. and they were laughed at. That how could that be? That human civilization, humans were just hunter-gatherers up until 10,000 years ago, and blah blah blah. But then, whoa, lo and behold, we've now found Göbekli Tepe. I'm at Göbekli Tepe, isn't it? Yeah, that's it, Göbekli Tepe. Now that's been found, and that's dated to about between 11.5 to 12,000 years ago. This huge temple-like structure that was erected and created, and it's got all these separate compartments, and it's got all of these. So how is that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I definitely find this very interesting. Mufti, your thoughts on Rumi? I think that's what are all these numbers? I don't know. People are posting numbers. I don't know what that means. Right, okay. People, if you're trolling, you're going to get blocked, okay? And I don't know what people are saying, but if you can pay attention, this is where, you have fools in the audience. You got to go, pay attention, right? So, yeah. Right, okay, now, what were some of these questions? Right, my thoughts on Rumi. I find Rumi very intriguing, more so in recent times, since I've become very fascinated with the topic of consciousness. Right, what is going on? Right, let's take a look. There was a super chat. Was the whole of creation created for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I mean, it's not that. You see, that's just said out of, out of deep love for the Prophet, that the whole world was created for you. Obviously, that's not a belief that Muslims hold per se as a belief structure. People maybe out of deep immense love for the Prophet say that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but that's not a belief structure within Islam. Right, the Big Bang. The Big Bang did not happen. Do you guys remember Sheikh Faisal? In his words, when he would say, this person need a big bang in his head. All right, people. Right, let's move on, people. Right, there was what else did I have sent to me? Let me check. Right, I did have Right, here's an interesting case, people. I thought I'd speak about this. Somebody had asked me. So why not? I don't know if you guys have come across this. This was in the news this last week, I believe. Or I saw it this last week, unless it's older than that. But it's to do with a lord from the UK. The title Lord, peerage, and I don't mean Lord in the sense Rab, but there was this lady, Tahira Zaman, who had claimed abuse and against this Lord, and so he quickly thought he quickly resigned before this abuse scandal could get out. So I mean, he was having it all epically until she comes along. Right, so, but, okay, so what is this? So this article, speaking about this, was claiming that she states that she was in a consenting relationship with this person, Lord Ahmed, Milord, in the old Bollywood, say Milord, Milord, but Milord. So she was having this relationship, with Milord, and it was all consensual. It was all, it was all fine. Until, so it's all going, let me see if I can. Right, it's all going good. Oh, no, sorry. Right, it's all going fine until he broke it off. So she says that I've been sexually exploited because I was under the impression this is a long-lived relationship. So now that it isn't, I feel as though I've been abused. Did you guys hear me? Let me just repeat that once again. That unless this is what I understood, that I was in a relationship willfully, as you do. But then, because this person ended the relationship sooner than I expected it to end, so now in hindsight, I feel that I've been exploited and abused. Exploitation. I don't know what to say here. But this is the thing that makes people hate this new militant leftism. This militant liberalism and this militant feminism and this militant kind of culture, this cancel culture that we have, unfortunately, in society, that just, it's like, oh, because I'm hurt, every hurt translates as abuse. And especially if it's against men, it's clearly just, it's easily accepted. It's like, well, duh, men are just bastards anyway. So I found that so hilarious and so, in a way, shocking, because I think, damn, is that what this world has come to now? That, the relationship ended sooner than I thought. So in hindsight, this hindsight abuse. This is definitely a strange, interesting time we live in, people. Right, so what else is going on, people? What else is going on? Other than that, let me take a look at some other interesting topics that had also come our way. Un momento. Right, this was an interesting post I'd seen. Believe it or not, people, this beautiful brother that you can see there, the beautiful, is Sheikh Dhibab Ibn Hamdan Al-Ghamidi, Saudi, alright, Saudi, you're doing it, right, who says in his fatwa, 600-page book called On Football, he says, I have no doubt, I may have doubt in this reality, I may have doubt, slight extent, is this a simulation? I may have a 1% doubt, is this a dream? I may have doubt on my senses, did I really see that, or was that an optical illusion? Did I hear something, or did I imagine it? But I have no doubt, not even a blink of an eye, that football is more haram and harmful than alcohol and gambling, which are prohibited by consensus of the scholars, people. I mean, I'm not making that up, people. That is actually what Sheikh Dhibab, sorry, Dhihab, what's his name? Let's go back to his name. What is it? It is Sheikh Dhiyab. There it is, Dhiyab, which it should have been Sheikh Dhubab, which means the fly. You know, a little fly called Dhubab. It's Dhiyab. You Sheikh. I have no doubt, not even a blink of an eye, that this is more haram than all of those things, gambling, alcohol, you name it. More haram than that is football. Now, I'm not even into football, but I have to say that is the most ridiculous fatwa that I've come across in recent times. So, people, where have we got to? Was that a naked Mulvi? Yep, that was not a Mulvi, that was our, where's he gone? Alright, people, celebrating our 20k subscribers. But that dance also, let's go to people. Let's take a look at this week's topic. Slightly masaladar. Make Molvi Saab sprinkle it in there. Alright, people. Alright. Alright. So, people, quite an interesting week it's been. Right, those of you that are not too familiar, there has been quite some activity on empty, empty Muslim Twitter. So, what has this all been? Well, what's happened, mi gente, is Muhammad Hijab has, he had a podcast where he brought on a trans hijabi girl. So, MTF, male to female, this one. This one, male to female. So he brought on this trans hijabi. I think her name is Alia, but can somebody in the comments, if you know her name, I've forgotten. I think it's Alia, or in case it's not, I don't want to be just calling her Alia. And she's like, what the hell, that's not even my name. So let me see if anybody knows her name and puts it in the comments. But so he brings on this trans hijabi and to have a discussion, and she is she's reluctant initially to come on. So there's Ali, her name was Ali, correct, that's his name. I think her name is Liaqat Ali Farzand Khan. What the? Is that anyway, right? Let's go with trans hijabi because I don't know what her name is. So, in case some people are saying, all right, somebody said it is Alia. Okay, nevertheless. Sana. That you're mixing it up with the other Imam. So anyway, this trans hijabi brings her on because it is gonna, obviously it's going to be controversial. It's going to bring an X amount of views and it's going to be interesting. But to be fair, I did listen to a bulk of his podcast. A substantial amount. I didn't hear the whole thing, but I heard a substantial, and it was an interesting discussion. So I'd like to play a few minutes of it here so we can see. Let's see. Right. Okay. So
what seems to come out in terms of the literature, especially with Judith Butler and third wave feminists like this, and also in trans theory, like a queer theory, right? Queer theory in general, it seems to be more that it's a social construct. So, for example, me looking at someone like Judith Butler, going back to her, she seems to insinuate that sex is a social, not just gender, but sex is a social construct as well.
So you can.
To what extent would you agree with someone like Judith Butler that sex is a social construct?
So there are, what's it called? So sex is defined by your biological characteristics, your chromosome, and there was one other thing that I'm forgetting. But I think that I think it's kind of a little bit of both. I see the argument on that sex is, like, for example, for me, I wouldn't consider my sex as a female. I wouldn't consider that as a social construct because this is how my brain was born. I was born
That's interesting to
feminine. I was,
get her take on that.
Like, that's how my brain is wired. So in that aspect, I wouldn't consider it a social construct. But when you start looking at what society expects of certain genders, and you compare and you fit that into the...
I grant you all of that. But the verse I quoted you was particularly condemning...
Just talking about the
shahwa. The
Lut alayhi salam story.
The lustful attitude that they have and that they acted upon towards men.
And the way I interpreted that is it's you are cheating on your wives and with someone else. I don't put as much value on the fact that it states man. And I know, like, to a lot of people, that is, no, you're picking and choosing, you're reaching. But, like, you know that the Quran instructs us to...
But I have to say, this is an interesting point she makes,
like,
here.
Oh, the Quran instructs us to hit our wives if they misbehave. And there's a lot of people...
What are you saying? Our wives?
Not like...
Yeah.
Hijab,
enjoying
it. That's not what I meant. Stop. Okay.
Stop.
But
Stop it.
A lot of people, a lot of Muslim scholars, I just find it very fascinating how when it comes to that, they're like, well, a word has thousands of interpretations. There's so many things that this could mean.
Yeah.
I apply
that is a good point, though, she's making here.
Read passages in the Quran that could be interpreted as homophobic or transphobic.
Yeah, but
I don't guess it depends. So what, like, if we were to believe that homosexuality is a sin, what is a gay person supposed to do?
Well, think about the act of homosexuals. I'm sorry to put this into a vivid format for you, but actually having sex, a man having sex with another man, for example, where the penis is going into the rectum repeatedly to the point where it could even injure the other person, and it's actually very painful. It must be very painful. That is, we're talking about that act.
Look at that correction quickly. It must be. It's actually very. I mean, it must be
another. Obviously, everything that leads up to it is also haram, right? But unclothe another man. For example, I'm giving you one act, homosexual act, and then erecting himself and penetrating the rectum to the point where
erecting himself.
If you read reports, many of these men's anuses become injured with fissures. It's called fissures because of the.
I do apologize, people, that you gotta,
and bleeding comes
you gotta
and
hear
sometimes
this.
They can't even hold their own stool, so they'll be walking in the street and the stool actually just comes out of their anuses. They can't even.
I don't think that being a gay person revolves 100% around sex. I don't think that's what it all is about.
Yeah.
The male G spot is located inside the anus.
This is a myth.
Why would God? Yeah. Why would God put a G spot?
I mean, that might look. I'll be honest. I don't know if if God is forbidding homosexuality, why would He put the G spot of the man inside of the anus of the man? I turned around. I did not know what she's talking about. That was 10 years ago.
That was a story that he narrated.
He went home and got a cucumber. No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't.
She goes, you went home and got a cucumber. So, people, let me just bring up your comment. So right now, that went on for, they had an, I think it must have been, it's less than 2 hours. I think maybe it's about 1 hour, 40 minutes or something. But it was an interesting, what senses, it was a reasonably respectful conversation. Obviously, Muhammad Hijab was stating his point, getting a bit graphic there, repeatedly penetrating with his penis in the rectum. A man would undress the other man and then he would erect himself. It's like, come on, stand to attention. God damn it. It's like, what are you doing? I'm erecting myself. I'm establishing. Right, so that's now, as you can imagine, people, what happened? Muhammad Hijab. Now, first of all, just to be clear, some people, I know you're asking, you see, I'm referring to her as she, and that's because, one, she identifies as a she, and that's what she's become, surgically or through she's transitioned to a female, and we go with what people want to be addressed by, especially if that's what they've transitioned to. So I don't think people should be addressing her as a he, because obviously that's, the whole purpose of her surgery and everything is to become a female. So she's not, so it's not like a man who's perceptibly, even though, I mean, I'm sure, some people, there may be certain features, still residual features, but you can clearly see certain feminine features, I'm sure, with the kind of drugs she's taking and things, and the hormonal assistance with all the estrogen and things like that, she would develop female anatomy. So, I mean, or certain part of it anyway, and the rest through surgery. So and I do have a video on this question as well, that do we address people that have gone through, that have been through surgery, gender reassignment surgery, do we address them as male or female? And I've said that the fatwa is whatever they are in their current state is what you address them by. So, and that's also decent courtesy as well. So, okay, so now Muhammad Hijab and her, and they're going through this discussion. So just briefly on this discussion, and then we're going to go to the drama that's erupted, because Hijab's and our beloveds and his beloveds, you've got Danny Boy and you've got Gangu Teli. So them two have kind of completely, they've exploded, and there's been this huge backlash. But before we get to that, a bit of this discussion. What the trans hijabi is saying is that she doesn't feel that the Quran clear cut, or the Quran, she doesn't feel the Quran, not clear cut, she doesn't feel that the Quran forbids homosexuality, and really it's talking about other things. It's talking about rape and adultery and cheating and things like this. Now, I would like to say on that, first of all, there's a detailed video, a very detailed video. If you want to learn about the topic from an Islamic viewpoint, watch that clip. It's called, I think I released it last year, unless it was this year, last year I think. It's called Homosexuality and Islam, A Diverse History. So it's at least, I think, about 45 minutes long, if not between half an hour to 45 minutes in between, and it goes through a whole overview, a historical overview, the rulings, the alleged ahadith, things like this. So I do cover it in much detail, and I explain the difference of opinion as well over the centuries. There have been scholars who have argued that homosexuality is not haram. They have been a fringe minority, people like Al-Qadi Yahya ibn Aktham, there's been other people like Abu Nawas, there's been the caliphs of Islam, Al-Amin, who was strictly, he just became dead on. He wasn't even bi, he was just like, just after men. You've had Ma'mun, who kind of swung both ways, but these were the caliphs of Islam. But prior to them, from the Bani Umayyah time, there's been people quite through, and I do quote this, and I quote people, I demonstrate that, look, people recognized that kind of sexual attraction as very natural. And I quote, I think, Imam Nawawi and Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi and all these other scholars. So do watch that video if you want that detail. The point is that does this trans hijabi have a point when she's saying, I don't believe that? Now, I would say that, look, she has a point to some extent, that it is not clear cut in the Quran. It is kind of demonstrated through a story, like people infer the ruling through a story. So there's no verse of ahkam, the verse of rulings. So for example, there's verses to do with stealing, verses to do with adultery, verses. These are what you call ahkam ayat. So ayat or ahkam. So they are verses just where Allah is going to explain a ruling. So this is part of law. So he's going to say, well, people, if you're going to give testimony, or if people slander one another, or if people, there's different rulings for things. There's no such ruling verse in the Quran to do with homosexuality at all, categorically. Now, what there is are stories of the prophets. Now, amongst the story of Lut alayhi salam, you have what is mentioned, that they were homosexuals. Now, there's certain verses that condemn them. So from these verses, people infer the ruling that obviously that's haram. That's why they're being condemned, which is a rational, logical conclusion to those verses. I'm not saying it isn't, but it is also true that there are no clear hukam verses in the Quran about homosexuality, because this was not a phenomenon that was like that in the time of the Prophet in his immediate society, or in that extended Arabian kind of sphere. This was not really I'm not saying nobody may have ever done it, but it wasn't really there. So the Quran doesn't address it like that. Now, it does speak of the story of Lot, because that already existed with the Jews and the Christians. So it was mentioning the story, like it does of Noah, of Moses, of Abraham, and people like that, alayhim as-salam. So, right now, okay, so that's, I have mentioned that some scholars have agreed, but the general ulama do feel it is haram, and that's nothing hidden. I mean, that's, people know that. But I have mentioned in the past that, look, if people took that ruling from those scholars in the past, it's not the first time that scholars have disagreed on things. And I don't feel it's as clear cut in the Quran as, for example, the way stealing is haram in the Quran. That's clear cut. There's a verse that has come for that ruling. So, okay, I thought I'll just clarify that point, just to, just so people know that. The other thing is that, look, it is not right to condemn or persecute a people. It is not right. And to be fair, even Muhammad Hijab makes that point in his discussion that, we're not about persecuting communities or trying to make people, abuse or to insult, or, we're not about that. And I think that was very sensible of him to say that, because that's not what Islam is about. That said, I want to make a little point here that, look, this is a personal point now. I feel that similarly, it's kind of not fair how gay people treat normal people, or some gay people. The expectations. You see, normal people, there's many people who, you see, emotionally may find homosexuality disgusting. Now, gay people act like you're not allowed to find it disgusting. And I think that that's bang out of order, telling people that what you're not allowed to find disgusting. Like, look, it's an emotive response. Like, if you find, like, some people may find seafood disgusting. Some vegetarians may find the fact that people eat meat disgusting. Straight people may find, like, I definitely find homosexuality disgusting. Okay, not lesbians. I don't find lesbians disgusting, but I find homosexuals, okay, gay men, I find the thing disgusting. But we're told that, oh, you're not allowed to have that view that it's disgusting. And you think, well, why can't you have that view? Like, I'm not saying that you guys can't do it or you guys can't be it. But if I find it disgusting as a human being, I mean, I'm told that you're wrong. You're not allowed to find it disgusting. Why? Why aren't we allowed to find it disgusting? Because we do find it disgusting. I'm just being honest. It's like, well, you're wrong. It's like, why are we wrong? Even if by your worldview we're wrong, but are we not entitled to have that feeling? And you're like, no, you're not allowed to. And I think this is another problem, because it's also a form of kind of like a fascist approach. It's like that militant extremism towards straight people, that you're not allowed to find what we do disgusting. And I think you're not allowed to tell people what we're allowed to find disgusting or not. That's like that should be everybody's own choice. But yes, somebody said, Mufti, I love lesbians too. To be fair, lesbians, I don't think any men find lesbians disgusting. They just find it like, they just find it like, just like softness. It's like, I think even the Pope would agree with his recent kind of online surfing. Your Pope Francis caught in some drama, liking some Brazilian model. But yeah, so I look, I know people might hate on me for saying that, and I might get a lot of hate for it, but it's just, look, I'm just speaking my mind, man. Like, I feel that, I'm all for gay people having all the rights that people have, normal people have, like having, but I don't feel that just because they're gay, they deserve extra rights than what normal people have. That to me doesn't make any sense. And I don't like this imposing gay outlooks on people or on children. I feel that that's wrong as well. Because look, what gay people don't or refuse to accept, or some gay people refuse to accept, is for the most part, most species are not gay. I mean, they can, there is homosexuality in all species, but most of those species, as in if you take each species, for the most part, the majority of them are not homosexual. So, so homosexuality, I accept it exists in nature, but it's not the dominant theme in nature. So if you were to take a law of defaults, you would say by default, creatures are not homosexual. But it does exist. It's also a part of nature. I accept that. So to impose it on children, if you were teaching children, like the way when we teach children, look, think about it. We teach children things at a basic level. So we teach them science basically, and then it gets complicated later on as they grow up. So we should teach them the default thing, that generally how nature is, how procreation is, how relationships are, generally. And you could say, look, there are some people, as they get older, you can teach them the more complicated stuff. So that's my thoughts anyway on that. But let's get back to this topic, people, because we got a little distracted there. So Muhammad Hijab, for doing this, got a hell of a lot of hate. Okay. Mufti, you smell of homophobia. See, but this is the problem. Because I say that, people are going to say, see, and that's the problem right there. This is why, you see, because it's people are so trigger happy to just accuse people. I've got a whole video saying that, look, leave people alone, don't kind of attack them, and I've even shown a diverse perspective in Islam. But it doesn't mean that you need to now say, I can't have a personal, it's like somebody saying, oh, I find a particular flavor disgusting. And you're like, what the hell's wrong with you? You're not allowed to do that. It's like, tere baap ki dunya hai kya? Does your dad own this world? Why ain't I allowed to not like something? Anyway, moving back to the topic. So there was a hell of a lot of hate, that backlash that Muhammad Hijab got from his beloveds, the beginning with none other than Daniel Haqiqat Jew, because Daniel Haqiqat Jew is clearly known. Now, you mentioned homophobia. Daniel Haqiqat Jew is clearly known for his homophobia, outright homophobia. Now, here is a post by Danny Boy, right? So you can see this. So, as you can see, I missed the International Day Against Homophobia. The best way to celebrate such a beautiful, momentous, important day is the Muslim way, recreational base jumping. And obviously, he's taken, what he means is, he's trying to say about the joke of pushing them off. And that's obviously not right. So, but although I do admit it's a funny joke, you see, but it's wrong to really promote stuff like that, because it promotes violence against homosexuals, which is unacceptable. Right, so here the backlash comes against, I don't know if you can see that, but that's Farid, Danny Boy, all hating on Muhammad Hijab, saying that it's unacceptable what you've done. This can't, that he's given this platform to this trans hijabi, he's kind of done all of this, he's out of order, openly, publicly slating him, going for it. Muhammad Hijab responds, and then he starts fighting back. He says, I can't get the hypocrisy that you guys are on about. You've got, you people do whatever you want to do. Meanwhile, you've got Ali Da'wah makes his video, was hijab wrong? Obviously taking the side of hijab. Now, hijab never did anything wrong, to be fair, by having a podcast with a trans hijabi. But here you've got this video. Now, whilst this is going on, just so we...
how are you guys what doing? Seems to come out in terms of literature, especially with Judith Butler and third wave feminists like this.
Right,
and also trans theory.
Oh, right, damn. I'm so stupid.
How are you guys doing? I've been thinking.
Muhammad Hijab makes a video clip reaction.
And at the end of the day, I decided to make this video. Not that I may call anybody out, or that I may expose anybody, or that I may refute anybody, or that I may attack anybody. No, this is actually a video of public clarification. Honestly, it's a video of public clarification. And I'll tell you something. There's been lots of things that I've done in 2020, which have been problematic things, mistakes that I've made. And I've tried, to the best of my ability, to come out and admit those mistakes. That first interview that I had with Yasser Qadi, I made an entire post about how the questions were wrong, that, the idea was wrong, having that put up was wrong, and so on and so forth. That was a bad mistake. It was a mistake. I can try and cover it up. I can try and justify it, but it was a mistake. And I've made that very clear in my public communications and clarifications. Likewise, some of my interactions with the ex-Muslim community, the words I was using, was not really befitting of someone who is a da'iyah, someone who's a propagator or a communicator of the Islamic.
So this is Muhammad
Clearly,
Hijab's
I was
reaction
emotionally
video, and
invested.
he kind of
Clearly,
bites back.
the language, the anti-Islamic language that they had put forward was something that actually did get under my skin. And clearly there's something that I have to look back at and learn from. Lots of things have happened. Today I saw a video that was 15 minutes long of a brother.
This was a video
kind of
done by some guy
reiterating
called
mistakes and
Sajid.
saying, you know, lack of wisdom. And I appreciate where you're coming from, my brother. And I agree with the fact that these were lapses in judgment, they were lack of wisdom, they were things I have to learn from. As a young man, just like you're a young man, a good-looking man, but not maybe as good looking as me. I'm only joking. But yeah, it's something I have to look at, and I have to, you know, I have to kind of learn from, okay? And I agree with that, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that you said. But the problem I find is the underhanded way and the lack of collegiality. That's what I would actually
Hell,
put it.
rather.
It's a lack of collegiality. The underhanded
Collegiality.
way in which you put that video publicly, putting my name in the title, a name which I know you know will bring you a lot of attention, a name which I know you know will get your video up to a certain number of views. You put my name in the title without even speaking to me privately, knowing full well that you and I have mutual friends, not only mutual friends, but friends who are good friends in the dawah, who are mutual and who do have an influence on me. Farid is a brother that I've known for many years now. We started refuting Shiaism together, and we continue refuting all kinds of things together. And he's helped me tremendously. And I've tried to promote him to the best of my ability because his channel is a very valuable channel, extremely valuable.
So this is part of what goes on at this stage. Muhammad Hijab is being quite friendly. What happens is shortly after he drops that friendly approach and he comes out all guns blazing. But to be fair, you know, this point he made here was very valuable. He highlights that it's all about the word collegiality. Not that point. The point that he promoted Farid. You see, this is the problem. The problem is these people are part of a Frankenstein model that just teaches to hate on people. See, when you brew a culture of hatred, it won't be long before, you know, those chickens come home to roost. And that's exactly what is now happening. What he goes on to say in his video is that there is an alliance of these people, Danny Boy, of Ganguteli Farid, and this Sajid Lipham, who is this Medina graduate convert who's part of their crew, that they are all anti-Yaqeen and anti-Yasir Qadi. So they want hijab to be on their camp, but he's refusing. So because he's refusing, they're gunning for him. So they are these anti-Yakadites. You're anti-Yakadites. Right, so, and you can see here, so it started to get intense. He says, look, akhi, because Muhammad Hijab says, look, what about Qawm Lut? And doesn't Allah mention the Qawm Lut in the Quran? So is Allah promoting homosexuality in the Quran by, that's the kind of argument that he's giving. Now, you've got, obviously, Farid lashing back. You've got this is Sajid Lipham. To be honest, he's got a channel that's very active, although I hadn't really, this was when I first came across him. I was trying to figure out who is he. I didn't realize he's also a Wahhabi until I started clicking into some of his things. Then I was like, cha. He also apparently really hates Yasir Qadi, because Yasir Qadi is not on the manhaj. Oh, chache, you know, just yesterday he's embraced Islam. Today he's realized other people are not on the manhaj. I find it so hilarious, honestly. Nevertheless, people, the show must go on. So Here you've got Muhammad Hijab. He starts fighting back. He starts calling them musketeers. He says that, question for Farid, who leaked the, he asks him then who leaked the emails, because he knows. And Hijab says in his video, I'm prepared to also leak emails and private messages if that's what it takes. So that's interesting, and he proper starts going out for them. Unfortunately, what he also does during this is he also starts turning on the trans hijabi, which I think was wrong. He should not have done that. He starts saying, look, you said we need you to respect our religious categorizations. You said that a white man can't identify as a black without having black parentage. We believe someone rejecting clear verse of the Quran shouldn't be privileged with the label of Islam. Now that I feel was really was unacceptable, because when you think about it,
how are you guys doing? I've been thinking
there is this if we see in this clip
Muslim
here
would be doing, yeah, I'm sure there's lots of things if you weren't a Muslim maybe doing. I would be acting upon so many of my impulses.
So here he clearly addresses her as a Muslim, but later on to turn against her as not a Muslim, that is, just way below the belt. What a befitting idiom. Anyway, Muhammad Hijab carries on. You can see here he makes a poll saying, look, should I make a whole video refuting them? Yes or no? And people are saying, yeah, hell yeah, go for it, man. Go for it. Unfortunately, he doesn't. He deletes this post afterwards, but he still continues to gun for Danny Boy. And you can see here he's got this this post. I've had enough of du'at trying to bully me, taking stances on other du'at. He says, what about does brother Danny Boy condemn the clear-cut takfiri behavior of Haytham Saifuddin, seen here celebrating the death of Ali Halabi? So a sheikh passed away recently, a Salafi sheikh called Sheikh Ali al-Halabi. But this person by the name of Haytham Saifuddin, who is a takfiri kind of proper Khawarij Wahhabi, he calls them an apostate. He's got these clips here that you can see Muhammad Hijab shares, and he's kind of saying, well, what do you have to say about them? Because because they seem to be accepting him on their show. They seem to be speaking well of that person. And the point is, well, here you've got somebody who is ISIS or a supporter of ISIS, sympathetic to ISIS. And, you have people like that on some of your shows promoting their videos. You promote their material, but when I have a trans hijabi, you see me, that means, what he's trying to say is, that means I support them. That's what you're saying, where I don't. You see, that's hijab's point. Along the way, this is a random post. I had to just bring that in there. Somebody had commented. I just couldn't help myself but respond. He had said, someone help this poor... no, sorry, that's me. The person had written, woe to this jurist. Woe to him. I thought, seriously, I mean, who the hell speaks like that? Nevertheless, Daddy Boy was still fighting back. He was saying, look, someone comes to you and says, I love eating my own feces, and everyone should accept me for it. You can give him a 2-hour academic analysis of why he's wrong at eating feces. But no matter how good your analysis, the very fact that you engage such a person means you lost. You lost, Danny Boy. So you can see, so what was going on at this stage. So it goes back, forth. Hijab makes another video. He proper lashes out at, he's lashing out at that Sajid Lipham. It's going, Farid is saying things like, so what if we've made this public? People are asking Farid Ganguteli that, look, why are you doing this in public? Please, please, brother, don't do this. You know, the da'wah. And he's like, no, we must expose, you know, this is not, I'm not saying he's not a Muslim, but we need to take accountability publicly. Muhammad Hijab was saying, you know, hey, I'm not going to get bullied by you fools. You fool. So he's like, listen, Ganguteli. And he's like, Danny boy. He's like, and it was just blowing up on Twitter. I'm telling you know something though. I would like to say that, you see, I've said this before, that, you see, Muhammad Hijab he actually is very intelligent, okay? Unlike some of these other people, like, I suppose, okay, some of these guys, Ganguteli I don't think is that intelligent, he's just mediocre, but I feel, okay, what's in Danny Boy may be intelligent, he may be intelligent to some extent, yeah, except that he, you know, but he seems to have some kind of learning, I don't know, like some kind of autism or something that he's suffering from. But Hijab is actually very intelligent. Now, this is why I've said before that what I sense from Muhammad Hijab is that this Salafi kind of thing is already too constricting for him. That it won't, if he continues the way he is, unless he completely just cuts off his prefrontal cortex, within 10 years, I cannot see Muhammad Hijab part of that scene. He will turn into what Yasir Qadhi is now trying to bloom as. This Yasir Qadhi fully hasn't come out of the closet yet, but he's trying. You know, he's teasing us. You know, he's like sticking one foot out, the other foot out. You're teasing us, this one. But he's trying to come out as this person with the voice of reason. Because the truth is, Yasir Qadhi doesn't believe in all this kind of stuff. No way on earth today does he. I would guarantee you that Yasir Qadhi's views on most of the issues that I have spoken of that have been controversial are probably, if not identical, very similar. But he just doesn't have the courage to say all of that yet. And within maybe the next couple of years, he will. He's gradually coming out with more and more. He's facing backlash. He's trying to get people used to him coming out with controversy. Obviously, he can just ask me and I'll tell him how to do it properly. But, you know, these people, they don't know they can't handle controversy. But Muhammad Hijab within 10 years will be the same thing. He will backtrack on all of these positions. And the worst part is that he has lengthy videos on them now. You know, one of the best things I have to be so grateful to God about is that when I had different views, I didn't have social media. Or if I did have social media during some of that time, I have very little, if any, you know, record or videos of me saying, maybe there's an occasional video of me saying certain things which I've changed views on later on, but not drastically and overall, because we as human beings will develop throughout our lives. Now, when you've said things that are stupid and you've pushed on that, like let's say 20 years ago, I wouldn't have had these kind of views that I have today. You know, I would have just been a very young man trying to discover the world, and I would have been influenced heavily by my environment. So thank God the nonsense I might have come out at then was not recorded. You know, so yeah, so this is so I do feel that Muhammad Hijab, this is part of that. This is like the kind of teaser to what is yet to come. Anyway, in a video then, Muhammad Hijab comes out with, look, we've got a hierarchy. We've got Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad. I'm shocked he holds Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad in such a high esteemed, as in the senior within the UK, but each to their own. Each to their own. Huh? But obviously, I mean, Sheikh Haytham al-Haddad, in all honesty, to me, he's okay. He's just mediocre. He's not somebody so... he is a sheikh, but that's, just a mediocre sheikh. I don't see him as somebody incredibly profound. But nevertheless, okay, for some reason, to these people, he's he is the upper council, the high council of scholars within the UK. So somebody has obviously got in between these people and told them to calm down and to patch up. So they eventually do this public display of a patch up. You can see here that, I don't know, that's a bit small, but you've got Danny Boy, who's apologizing and saying, you know what, I should have just discussed privately. Muhammad Hijab is saying, okay, I accept your apology. Then Gangu Teli at the bottom, GT is, Farid is saying, I apologize too. And, he's saying, all right, go on then. The anti-Yakudites. You're anti-Yakudites, which is Yaqeen and Qadi. Okay, if you haven't got that. Yakudites. So, and I've come up with that term. Okay, so I want full credit for that. So, but Hijab then makes a video where he says, look, all right, fine, we've patched up, for the sake of brotherhood. But he says, that Sajid, he kind of still gives a very intimidating response to that Sajid Lipham, or is it Lifham? I don't know whether it's Lifham or Lipham, but he says to that Sajid, you need to fix yourself. Boy, I'm coming for you, boy. So that's what's been going down, people. But I tell you, the friendship is over. You know what? It doesn't matter what the words say. The words no do justice, this one no do justice, Right, so you've got...
You're finished. You're finished. You're finished. Wallah, you're finished. Wallah, you're finished.
Finished. It's over. ना रहा यार ये गंगू तेली दोस्त ना रहा people people दोस्त ना रहा यार ना रहा प्यार ना रहा what is there in life, huh? This friendship, this one over, this one no come back, this one. So people, it's been ever so awesome. It's getting very late. Let's wrap this up. You're finished, people, you're finished. Yakudites, you're finished. Yakudites are over. This Yakudite, this one no nice, my friend. So people, let's wrap this up, man. Let's wrap this up. What's going down? That was very emotional, Mufti. It was. It's very emotional. You know what? Once again, for you guys going out, this one just for you. I'm joking, man. But that's the sentiment right now. Muhammad Hijab is feeling a bit stuck, a bit trapped. Fasa diya na. But
you're finished.
You're finished.
You're finished. Wallah, you're finished. Wallah, you're finished.
Finished. Sajid, finished. This friendship break, Oh, Danny boy! What did this one? What did this one do? This one no look happy, no look happy, this one. Etibar na raha. Dost na raha. Pyar na raha. Love is no longer love, and my friends are no longer my friends. what is there in life left for me? Huh? What is reliable in this life? Guys, I'm wrapping this up. I'm going to bring up my exit page. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, then God damn you, you know this one. Not nice, my friend. Not nice. Right, so Yakadites. Then with the Yakadites, you know, finished, people, finish. Oh my God, I didn't wait. You know what? A quick, before I go, I almost forgot. Miss Patreoncitos, people. Let me just bring up. Miss Patreoncitos have left some questions. I'll do un momentico. Here it is, huh? You guys, nutty, looking at my, right, what, this one, you know, let's see. Right, Patreoncitos, this one's going out to you. Much love, as always. Right, so Nisar, you're doing it. Much love. You're the man. Thanks for answering my questions last week, despite my spelling mistakes. Don't worry about commercial mortgage or loan for your business. Is it halal? Keep killing it, Mufti. You're doing it. Much love, Nisar. Much love. So, I've got a very detailed video on this. It's about 45 minutes long. I go through the entire breakdown of what is riba in the Quran. It is not what this kind of loans and things like that. Riba in the Quran is loan sharkery. And I explain the kind of gradual development of finance over the ages. So today, money is not the same way. I mean, at a level, it is the same way. Obviously, money is money, but it has conceptually changed as well. How we perceive money, it is not entirely a zero-sum game. So I do explain that. Check it out if you just search my name and loans. So loans, mortgages are halal. They are permissible. They are not the riba of the Quran. That is strictly loan sharkery. Waqar, you're doing it. Much love, much love. Thank you for answering my question. Most welcome, Waqar. My question is, can you share your thoughts on what Iblis is? And I mean an Islamic interpretation of the devil, similar to the Christian narrative. Right. Okay, thanks again in advance. Well, Waqar, you see, the reason I refer people to my videos is because once I've made a video with so much kind of dedication to it, I feel that, you know, sometimes just in the moment, I may not do similar justice to that topic. So do check my video on the insinuations of the shaitan. What are they? So if you just Google YouTube, some of the keywords with my name, it'll come up. But I have mentioned there's two ways of looking at it. There's one camp that take it literal, that these are certain entities, that the devil is this entity sitting on your shoulder, doing this. He's got some kind of a straw that goes through your ear, goes into your brain, and he whispers things, and they take that literally. There's another camp of people that take this as a kind of a symbolism, that the negative thoughts we have, the negative the kind of insinuations we have is what is meant by the devil. Okay, so there is that camp as well, but do watch that clip. Tawheed, you're doing it. Much love, much love. Salam Mufti. Many halal slaughterhouses kill animals cruelly. Non-halal establishments may ensure a humane death for the animals. What exactly should be considered dhabiha meat? Once again, these guys are like, yaar, Mufti kar kya raha yaar? Watch my clip on dhabiha meat, because I go through the whole thing of how dhabiha had two purposes. The primary objective and the secondary objective. Primary being about pagan, distinguishing from pagan sacrifice, secondary being an identitarian issue. So I do explain the first having ceases to exist, but the second objective remains. I do support halal dhabiha meat. I do explain, however, that the other non-dhabiha meat, non-dhabiha meat, because of having lost its primary root, primary objective, wouldn't serve the same kind of consequences if people had it. However, it's better to always still stick to halal meat for the secondary objective values that are still found. For that to make a lot more sense, just watch the video where I go through the whole details and I explain the hadith and things like that, okay? So, and I do feel that Muslim abattoirs need to up their ethical game, okay? They need to be much more ethical. I do feel some are very ethical, so if you do look around, you will find some. Idris, you're doing it, much love, much love. What are your thoughts on the companions of the cave? Did they survive for 300 years? Is there another understanding? Once again, watch my clip on it where I go through the breakdown of the entire verse. But as a spoiler, I'll tell you that no, that was not 309 years. That was, some of them claimed. So if you watch that clip where I go through and I read, I believe it's Abdullah ibn Mas'ud's recitation, or the waqalu, and they said 309 years. It was not that was. Allah goes on to almost object to that. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best, kam labithu, how much they remain. So yeah, so it was not actually 300 years. Rahizi, you're doing it, much love. This slipped my mind. Why do the majority of the scholars claim that talfiq isn't permissible? Contemporary scholars believe it's permissible. Yes, of course, watch my clip on can we follow minority opinions. So I've got more than one clip on that, one with Sheikh Akram Nadwi, where we go through, we quote the scholars of the past. This is just an element of institutionalized religion to impose control on people. Look, if you don't understand the arguments too much, I'm just saying, I don't mean you specifically, Rahizi, but people that may be listening to this, I wouldn't worry too much about it. The point is that, look, our evidences are ultimately the Quran wa Sunnah and the voice of reason. Now, we follow a school of law, but it's not something that Allah has said, it's what common sense teaches. So if you check out my clip, should I follow a madhab? So I explain that. And the arguments are never by contrast. I mean, they're not explained, on its head. Like, you don't say, well, where's the evidence that this isn't obligatory? The evidence for obligation must be proven. So by default, nothing stands. So to follow a madhab by default does not stand. So to prove it, you need evidence, not the other way around. So you don't say, well, oh, can I follow a different opinion? Where's the evidence? You need the evidence to say that it's haram. You understand? So always follow, that is the law of defaults. Mercy, you're doing it, much love. What is your understanding? The verse tells us not to think of those who were killed in the way of God as dead. That there's been no sound this whole while. Guys, if there's been no sound this whole while, then maybe that's a sign from God. Right, so, okay, cool. You know what? Let's leave it out till next week. Much love, people. So that part at the end where there's been no sound, I'll have it kind of cut out then. Guys, much love.